Hi everyone, my name is Daniela Castillo and I am gonna talk about the importance of promoting adoption of animals for your course on ethical dilemmas in veterinary medicine. Well, the content of this presentation, I'm gonna talk briefly about my background, about a new perspective on animals as individuals, and just a reminder of the 5 freedoms. I wanna talk about a personal story and a review of shelters in the USA, of breeders in the USA, and then finally the importance of promoting adoption and what else I think needs to be done. Well, my background, I graduated from veterinary school in Mexico in 2008. I am originally from Oaxaca City in Oaxaca State in the south of Mexico. And I studied a master's degree in wildlife conservation in Sydney, Australia in 2011. After that, I volunteered at San Francisco Wildlife Rehabilitation in Quincy, Florida. For about 2 years, I volunteer work, and then I was the director in charge. And then I started a process to for the accreditation of my license in the US through the AVMA's Educational Commission for Veterinary for the foreign graduates. And I was done in 2016, where I started practicing in California. I started with emergency, then I went for private practice for about only 6 months each, and then I ended in shelter medicine, where I'm the most passionate about. I'm sorry for that. Currently, I do have my own corporation, and I work as a contractor for different nonprofit organizations doing high volume, high quality spay neuter surgeries. I've been doing this for about the last 4 to 5 years, and I also have my own mixed species house call veterinary service in North LA. I see mostly rescued animals and farm sanctuary animals, and I help for free wild animals if people contact me. I'm also part of the board of director of different organizations, mostly animal rights organizations. Here are some of the nonprofit organizations in Los Angeles that I work with, or I currently work, like Fix Nation, Spay Neuter Project of LA, Best Friends, ASPCA, Amanda's Foundation, and this is Lucy's Foundation. Some of them stopped with the pandemic and they haven't come back to offer services, and some of them haven't fully come back to do the full, scope of services that we're offering before. Here we can see this is a TNR operation. This is at Fix Nation, and they do mostly what they're considered community or feral cats. If people bring cats trapped in these cages or traps, the surgery is for free, and they only pay extras like antibiotic injections and vaccines, etc. And as you can see, we do about between 80 to 120 cats in 4 hours with 2 doctors. This was on a special day where there were one doctor volunteering doing surgeries, but it's usually 2 doctors. And there's special techniques, to do these surgeries really fast. Here's me volunteering in Oaxaca, where I am from, in a town about an hour away from the city. And as you can see, the conditions for these surgeries are nothing to be compared with these conditions in the USA. Oh my God, I'm just like, here I'm volunteering for a nice veterinary group in Puerto Rico. And we did, I think, over 4,000 surgeries in 5 days. So it was a big operation. So the next topic is a new perspective on animals as individuals that I ask for people here to consider. Since I've been a veterinarian, I stopped using the words pet and owner, and I encourage my staff and my clients to use companion animal and guardian instead. I don't like referring to animals as it. I prefer saying her, his, she, or he. To me, animals are our companion. To me, they are my children. I have 3 feline kids, and my husband and I, we chose to not have human kids. So these are our family. And animals shouldn't be considered things that we can abuse, mutilate, and treat like toys or furniture. Veterinarians should have the best interest of each individual animal and be their main defenders. If it's not us veterinarians, then who? I'm gonna remind you the 5 freedoms that all animals should have, and this is the freedom from hunger and thirst, so provide free access to clean water daily and maintain to maintain, their good health. Freedom from discomfort. We need to provide appropriate environmental enrichment and shelter from different weather conditions. Free from pain, injury, or disease. And this is by providing medical veterinary care on time. Freedom to express normal behavior by providing sufficient space and, like normal conditions that the animal would require for his normal behavior, normal freedom from fear and distress. And we need to do everything to avoid mental suffering. And there is an unofficial sixth freedom in the shelter medicine world, which is freedom from euthanasia for animals that are neither suffering irreparably or dangerous to the community. So let me talk you really fast about a personal story. Before I met Murphy in 2017, I was 100% a cat person. I was not really interested in having dog companions just because I was not really aware of their behavior or anything like that. For some reason, Murphy and I fell in love while while I started working at this um, nonprofit shelter, and I would see Murphy laying on his runner every day. He was labeled as guardian, as resource guard. So some people were a little bit of, a little bit scared of him. He had some beautiful, intimidating eyes. But I had this weird connection. I started working with him every day after work. So he would, you know, just run for or walk for an hour after, I mean, every day. And then it would help me too. We became friends. He even posed with me in my staff picture here. We were just friends. And then my husband and I couldn't imagine. I quit this job and I just couldn't imagine my life without this guy anymore. I kept going after work to walk him for an hour and then drive back to my house. And then we decided to buy a house to be able to keep this guy because we were living in a tiny apartment in Hollywood. So honestly, Murphy was one of the main factors for my husband and I to get our ducks in a row and purchase a home. And this is Murphy in our garage. One of the first days, he I learned on the bad way. I let him. The first night I gave him free range of my garage, and the next morning he chewed up furniture and a couple of things. The animal behaviorist that was supporting this transition explained me that he was used to this small runner, and it was a lot of anxiety to just give him suddenly so much space. So I started giving him slowly more and more space within my garage. As you can see, of course, he will walk out 3 times a day. Then slowly bring him to my kitchen. He was tied to the table. He will have a restricted range. And slowly we were moving the fence between my cats and him because in the beginning he was very reactive towards cats and I was really afraid. At some point I changed his name from Tiger to Morphe. His name was Tiger at the shelter. So this is my nephew, and we're working with him, getting used to be around the fence with my cats. Here is the animal behavior is working with Morphe around my cats. This is Balito just sticking out his head. And slowly, he was actually this one is before this one, but he was trained to have a muscle. And after that, um, being around my cats without being reactive or trying to do anything with them. And slowly, he went from being completely away from my cats to basically sleeping next to each other, and that he never showed any, reactive behavior against them. He was he became the perfect companion, very friendly with everybody, every single animal and person. Unfortunately, we lost him last year due to a very aggressive form of lymphoma, and here is on his last days getting acupuncture. And here's Balito, my cat, just being around him. And this was one of the most difficult times in our lives. And I learned so much from Murphy. So a quick overview of shelters in the US. Currently, there's no government institution or animal organization that is actually taking statistics of the animal protection movement, of how many animals come in and out. There's estimates from the ASPCA and the Association of Pets. Currently, while we have decreased the amount of dogs that we euthanize in shelters, this is from 2021. Apparently, we still take in 3.3 million of dogs each year, and we euthanize approximately 670,000. This is about 20%, which is still a high number in my opinion. One of the trends in the US is started in 2005 with the Katrina hurricane, the transportation of some animals to other states. So currently we have 778,000 100,000 dogs being transferred from areas with a lower population of dogs. So like we're transporting dogs from California, Texas, Arizona to northern areas like Boston and New York, areas like that, Oregon. This is the shelter where I used to work a few months ago, and this was my daily walk, just seeing these dogs there, always there. These are cats that are, these guys get adopted really easy because they are babies and everybody wants kittens, but believe it or not, they were returned after a few years. So the overview of breeders and puppy mills, there's no better compile of information than this website that is called Bailing Out Benji. This was started in 2011, I believe, after a woman in Iowa find out where her puppy was really coming from horrible conditions in a puppy mill. So she started this database of all these puppy mills and maps. This map is showing the USDA breeders and brokers. As you can see, I'm going to show you an example, like these 3 states that are with the most puppy mills. So Iowa, for example, Iowa had 240. And from here you can see the green dots are less than 50 adult animals. Let's try to look for like red dots are between 50 and 150 adult dogs enclosed in these areas, basically just producing puppies to sell. Ohio had 255, and finally Missouri has 758 puppy mills. So now the next map shows the horrible 100 by year, and this list goes for a while. As you can see, here is a big document. These are the suspected or offenders and even repeated offenders of puppy mills that are not following basic welfare rules. This document in that website is showing why are they called the horrible 100, and basically they just don't follow basic welfare rules, and they have animals in these conditions. So they don't recommend anybody to support any of these breeders and puppy mills. So in that, I explain why or how the shelters are looking in the puppy mill, because to me it doesn't make sense that we're killing animals and at the same time we're supporting people to produce animals and not have them in good conditions. So the importance of promoting adoption to me is looking at this picture, and we're seeing animals that first of all might have some genetic conditions that are these breeders and purebred dogs. They're sold for a lot of money, and Then we have the animals at the shelter that are for free, and people don't want to adopt them because they think they have too many problems, or they consider these animals at the shelter something like garbage. So if we have less animals in shelters, that's going to equal less cruelty. We as society, we need to prioritize our limited resources to provide good homes to animals in shelters instead of protecting and encouraging puppy mills and breeders. The majority of animals that come from cruelty are coming from situations as hoarding cases and dog fights, puppy mills like the ones I show you, and they usually suffer from trauma. Not that they cannot be cured, they just need to have some care and love. This is another example of what happens with these facilities with a lot of animals. I've been following this news, but recently there were 4,000 beagles rescued from a Virginia facility in horrible conditions that violated dozens of federal regulations. And now there's all these rescue organizations basically cleaning the mess and trying to find homes for these animals so they don't suffer and they don't spend more time in these little cages. The other reason why we need to adopt is thinking about the staff at the rescues and at the shelters and rescues. There's been, I found more than these studies, but they basically um, are saying that it causes higher moral injury on staff that one decides who's going to be euthanized and two who actually performs. Also, there's studies on their reactions like crying, sadness, feeling depression, and anger from performing euthanasias. So if we don't have these many animals in shelters, we're not going to euthanize and have hence this much compassion fatigue and depression in staff, veterinarians, volunteers, etc. This is a case where I was paid to go. This animal rights organization paid me my flight for me and an assistant to go with me to North California, our hotel, our rental car. We drove about 2 hours in the middle of nowhere to this facility that was breeding these wolf breed, mixed dogs illegally. Somebody happened to be around there, reported to Fish and Wildlife. They went, seized the place. According to these people, they killed all the animals that were in really bad state, and then they gave them 30 days to empty and transfer these animals. So I went and did of hands exams, rabies vaccines, and health certificates so they could be transported to other states and sanctuaries. So this is another example of how people breeding these animals, they, when public see these things and report, they're not gonna, in public, outcry, are not gonna let this pass. So action is taken, but just think about all the people that took to do this operation, and that money can certainly be used for other things. Finally, removing animals from shelters, streets, and maybe bringing from other countries. That's already happening inside of the US. As I said, we're bringing dogs from high concentrated areas like California and the south of the United States to, and even Mexico to parts in the north. This picture is a place in Oaxaca where there is about 300 dogs, and one lady has them and feed them. But these are all dogs that potentially need at home. I mean, if we think about bringing, instead of paying thousands of dollars to buy a purebred dog, we can save a life in another country and use that money for the, permit and travel expenses. This, there's dogs rescued from the dog meat trade that find amazing homes in America. So, in my opinion, what else needs to be done? We need to ban and fine breeders and puppy mills. We need to continue with the spay neuter programs, and if we can, expand to other regions, even volunteer in other places of the world, improve veterinary oversight of companion animal transports. This is important because we don't want to bring any disease from another country. We don't want to risk, adopters and stuff. We want to promote pet health insurance or savings account for services. People don't realize how, at least in the US, veterinary services are not, and they're not cheap, and people need to understand that it's not really our responsibility to provide free services. I agree that there should be low-cost services for low-income communities, but also people need to consider that into their savings with having adopting a companion animal, and also increase pet-friendly living. A lot of people relinquishing their animals, it's due to their buildings don't allow animals, or they have a limit, or they have a restriction in breeds. I do have to say that in the shelter movement, some of them believe that we did already a good job with spaying and neutering, and now we have a shortage of animals, which I'm not sure if that's real, as we don't have really any accurate numbers, and I'm not sure what they're tied with certain breeders or connections with puppy mills, but there's certainly people that believe that we need to continue these actions that I just listed. One of the things that I read, that if we get to a shortage of dogs, we could, instead of aborting these dogs that we usually do in shelter that are about to have their babies, that those could be sources of new companion dogs. And I do understand too that some dogs have certain jobs or works that people has attached to them, but I think again that we should not think of animals as things. I want to finish with this quote from the ASPCA. When you adopt, you are directly supporting life-saving work. A shelter or rescue's adoption fee goes right back to funding its efforts to save, treat, and rehome animals. Adoption provides a second chance for your new pet and opens up a space for the next pup who arrives needing help. Your act of kindness has a ripple effect that can impact many lives. I love this quote, and as I said, I want to finish with it because we do save a life when we adopt from a shelter. I want to clarify that for some people, paying a fee to the shelter, it seems to be a lot, but just think about all the money that you're giving back for doing all these services for you. And yeah, so thank you so much for your attention, and I hope this helped you in any way. Thank you.